How's everyone doing today? That's a halfway thing. How are we doing today? Okay, we're not going to get there. All right. So we're going to talk today about creating a focused product culture. A lot of people are probably going to say to themselves, who the heck are you and why do I care? I'm that person. They made that emoji for me. I love this emoji. I use it all the time because it looks like me. I love it. In any case, I am the Chief Product Officer of Gtmhub. My husband actually works for GitHub, which is hilarious. Okay, so culture. What the heck is culture? It's this stuff. It's this, I think. It's what you believe, it's what you value, it's the system of language and the communication and practices. I boil it down to 4 things. Culture is usually shaped by who you hire, who you fire, who you reprimand, and who you reward. That really is it. When you're incentivized to do something, and it's a severe thing, people will care. And then after they care, you've shaped culture. And a lot of us probably have inherited the culture that is currently in our organizations, but we also hopefully are future thinking, right? And we're building products. And the way to create that future is to predict it, is to create it. You kind of have to do it together. You can't leave it alone. You leave things alone and then they fester. It's like pizza. If you put pizza under your bed for some reason and it was delicious at some point, it will start to mold and rot, and that pizza used to be good, but now it sucks. So you have to create it. You have to take care of it. So I'm going to go through 14 things. That's a lot, but I'm going to try to kind of blitz through it on kind of the things that I think are important in shaping culture. First is vision, right? Now, there are certain teams, and I'll tell some stories when I'm talking. When I was working for Wunderlist, we seriously were a bunch of missionaries. It was insane. Everyone was like, do you use Wunderlist? Do you create lists? Do you like lists? We love lists. Everyone should have a Wunderlist. Everyone will love the Wunderlist. The opposite of that, or at the other end of the spectrum, is a bunch of mercenaries. They're hired, they don't know what they're there for, but they're getting paid and it's great, right? You kind of want to move toward the missionary part, which means you kind of have to have a product vision. You need to care about why you're there, right? So, next. Inspiration, right? I used to work for the Airforce. I worked for a lot of different programs, from intercontinental ballistic missile defense to the DDG Flight 3 destroyer-class ships to like the Joint Strike Fighter. Like, these were legit programs I actually worked on. And you can gather requirements. When you're military, you kind of have to have everything up to military spec because you don't want people to die. Kind of makes sense. We're building B2C products and B2B products, so we probably should problem solve. We're not trying to create the next satellite. We're trying to create something that somebody cares about, which I mean, there's a problem that needs to be taken care of. Let's solve that problem. It's pretty simple, right? Okay, stakeholders. So on the stakeholder front, and the clicker stopped working. Yes, it happened. Okay. Understanding them versus being beholden to them. What I mean by this is, hopefully you're talking to your users, your customers. If you're in a B2B environment, do not try to move in the direction of being beholden to them. They will tell you what they want. At Wunderlist, there were so many things people will want it. At Microsoft, there were so many things people wanted. Now, there are so many things people want. I will not create any of those things. Probably never. But I do need to understand them so I can solve their problem, right? I'm not beholden to them. I'm not going to ship what they tell me they want me to ship. It kind of makes no sense. And this one's probably going to be a little controversial. How many of you actually have a prioritized roadmap? This is not bad, but how many of you have one? There are 3 people that have a prioritized roadmap. 4 people. Okay. Netflix actually follows something called opportunity mapping, which I think is really cool. This person wants to watch more stuff. That increases our ability for people to stay on the platform. The opportunity is we can increase viewership. How can we do that? What are our opportunities? Where are we failing? Same thing with Wunderlist. People want to create tasks. They want to feel that satisfaction of actually completing them. What are our opportunities? Oh, this person can't actually figure out how to complete a task. That's not cool. This person can't create one on this platform. That's not cool. We need to find opportunities in our product to make it better, to problem solve, right? And we want to understand our users so that we're not beholden to them, but actually can do things about it. Feedback. The feedback is an interesting thing in that most people think I need to get feedback just from the customer, but that's not necessarily true. Some of our best ideas actually came from the engineering team. For example, what if we can align our lists with emojis in the front? That came from the engineering team. That did not come from design or product. It happened. We saw probably a re-engagement of like 25% of our users coming back on Wunderlist. It was incredible. I was like, wow, we just introduced emojis on the platform. And everyone's like, ooh, this is awesome. Let's re-engage. I don't understand it, but it came from an engineer, and I thought it was really awesome. When you start hearing things like, well, we made it this way, Jenny, and like the user's kind of dumb. Like, they need to go figure it out. That's their problem. Adversarial, this is bad. We don't want this. We need people to actually care. You need to be inclusive. Innovation. A lot of people kind of, when they grow and scale, get into this realm of being very permission-based. Can I please do blah? Rather than, I'm going to do this, or I want to do this, I think it's going to change something. Can I be proactive about it? Now, this may be really hard in your organization. If you're in a permission-based environment, I would suggest that you do something about it, because if you don't, then you're kind of complicit in the behaviors that are probably not okay and are probably slowing you down. What we want to build is a focused product culture of people who are proactive and taking responsibility for the things that they think are right on behalf of your user or your customers. Prototype. There are going to be opportunities and chances and situations where you're going to have to be dictatorial. Like, none of these ideas make sense. Here's why it doesn't make sense. But as much as you can, you want to be able to co-create. I actually am on calls with our customers at Gtmhub a lot, and I share mock-ups really, really early. And we talk through why this may or may not work for them. And we do user testing with them. We do all of the stuff that I'm pretty sure you're going to talk more about. We're less dictatorial. We're more co-creating. We did this at Wunderlist. We do this actually a lot more, or they do now. I'm not a we. At Microsoft, there's actually a lot of co-creation that happens with the hardware and software. It's less dictatorial now, and I think that's good for everyone. Customers. A lot of us will probably say, well, if we can fix the problem, and I've heard this before, like Sam Altman talks about it, you want to be the customer, I am the customer. I kind of think at some point you're not the customer anymore, or you might be building a product that has nothing to do with anything you ever want to do, right? So you kind of have to connect with them. Try to stop yourself from saying, but I would do it this way, because you're not them. Or at least that's what I've learned. Iteration. All right, we are working in companies that are really dynamic. The environment in which we are exercising our organizational strength is changing all the time. And we have to fight against the want to be incremental. This becomes really, really hard when you're big. Like, if you're a 1,000-person company, it's probably really, really hard to be really dynamic and responsive to the trends and the things that you're seeing in the market or the opportunities that you think need to be instrumented or implemented, right? But we have to fight that urge to want to build things incrementally, which means we have to be fast, right? And this is something that should hopefully be inherent in your culture. If you're being forced with deadlines, then there's something that's probably a little awry, because people should be feeling the necessity of the speed in which something should be shipped. And here's why. We have 52 weeks in a year, if you're going to assume that everyone works every week, to actually validate your product ideas. Probably 60% of them are sucky. Like, they're going to fail. You're going to fail. Maybe more like 80% of your ideas are going to be crap, which means you need to be fast so that you can validate what's wrong and actually start pushing stuff that is right. Commitments. This is something that I wrestle with a lot, because I work in a B2B company. We have a sales team, It's easy to be really sales-driven, where they tell me, Jenny, if we don't do this, they will not close. And if we don't close, then that affects our MRR. And if that affects our MRR, then that affects me and my targets. And we get into these conversations. But we have to try to stray away from that, which means there needs to be some part of the organization that has an agreement with sales and says, at some point, we do need to build against what the sales team is saying because we don't have product market fit. But at some point, you will start seeing that the product will sell itself, and then you start moving in a direction of being very opportunistic about what you will do and when. So you have to, at some point, I think, be sales-driven so that you can figure out what to do, because money talks. If someone's putting down money for what you just built, it's likely someone else may too. And I think that totally makes sense. But we want to be moving toward opportunities. Analytics. This is something that was really deeply ingrained in me in my Wunderlist days, which kind of flew in the face of Microsoft to some extent. We are data inspired. We are not data driven. And if you're a data person in here, I'm really sorry. I used to lead a data team. And the reason why this matters to me is because at some point, if you're looking backwards and you're going to build stuff to optimize and increment on what has been done and not what could be done, that future that you want to create, which means you need to inspire yourself with the data to do something different if you're not seeing enough movement, but not to be driven by it, because you're going to do what you've done before and pattern match. And that can get really dangerous. Competition. A lot of people will say, who is in your competitive space? How are you going to be taken out? I say, if you do have customers or you have users and you are in, let's say, the B2B space, you want to be focused on your reference customers. You could care less what the competition is doing because you're trying to break through and do something completely different. You need to keep note that they exist in the space, but not be hyper-focused on them. All right. Celebration. And this one, honestly, I'm not really good at yet. As a person, I'm just not good at this. But we need to be celebrating the outcomes of what we're doing. When I first started in this industry, there was a lot of emphasis on, we shipped the roadmap on time. And it was output driven. All the features were there. Everything was to spec. It was awesome. We were celebrating outputs, which meant we were incentivizing people to continue to celebrate shipping the roadmap, rather than, did we make an actual change to the end user, and did they even give it, fill in the blank, right? Which is outcomes driven. Like, what are you trying to achieve, and did you do it for them? And then celebrate. And I'm not sure how to do that well yet. I'm still working that out with this team. We have something that is coming up for the team if we were to be successful at the end of the quarter. I'm super excited about it, and once that happens, I'll probably put it on Twitter. But until then, I'm not telling anyone because it's so insane. But you can ask me. I will probably tell you after this talk. So, bottom line, this is my favorite. You gotta fight for it. You gotta fight for a good product culture. It's not gonna build itself. It doesn't exist. And in doing that, by creating a really good, focused product culture, you're going to make your customers badasses. They may not know that yet. They may not want that yet. But they will, eventually. All right, this is an eye chart, but it's all of the stuff that I talked about. Again, it's not to say that anything is particularly wrong. It's just my recommendation on what you should lean towards. All right, thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful. Yeah, I'm good. Wow, that was fast.
You did very well.
Holy
Thank
crap.
you so much for the talk.
I want to get you guys outside. That's why I'm doing this. It's really nice.
By the way, you don't have to take pictures. I'm going to send you the slides. You'll have all the information together with the video. You'll have everything. Yeah. Does anybody have a question? There we go.
Oh, yes. Time to question 0.
Sorry.
Loved
Can
it.
I just... Oops. Oh. There you go.
Hello, thank you for the talk. It was nice.
You're welcome. It was nice too. Here.
All right. I would like to ask a question about the futures.
Sure.
You meant that we should lean toward opportunity maps.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, we should lean into it, but how would you create one? How would you, have a couple of opportunity maps based on the data, which also means that we would be data-driven in a sense?
In a sense, it is somewhat cyclical, I will say. As an example for our product, I could use Wunderlist as an example. Let's say that the metric that I know that we're tracking that is product specific and also very, very useful is the amount of tasks that are created. Let's say that that's a number I want to affect, right? What are the opportunities that I can create based on user feedback, likely, that suggest to me on these certain platforms that it's not working? For example, when I was looking at the data, specifically at Wunderlist, I was like, all right, on Android, we're good. On iOS, we're good. On the web app, we're not good. People aren't creating tasks. What is the opportunity? The opportunity there is for people to create them. They know that they exist. They want to create them. They don't know how. All right, let's go figure it out. And we talked to people, and they were like, I would love for there to be something that signaled to me that I could enter. That was an opportunity. And I learned this with specifically the entirety of India. Like, there was a gap when I looked at the data. I was like, these people are having a hard time doing this. And they seem to be a predominant user of the web app for some reason. That's totally cool. Apparently they had Chrome. Awesome. And so I did a lot of studies, and I was like, what are the questions or the challenges that I have? And all of those questions end up being an opportunity for us to lift that number. So yeah, I started with a KPI. I figured out in the data where I had a hole. Then I did some interviews to kind of figure out what was wrong, because we had a user base that was super active on social media, and I just blanketed and be like, anybody here want to even talk to me? I will spend time, I don't care when, with you. Talk to them, gather enough inputs, started to categorize those things, and then found, oh, that's an opportunity, that's an opportunity, that's an opportunity, that's an opportunity. And then we sourced all of the information, categorized it, figured out a solution set, worked with the engineering team, shipped it, fixed it, the numbers went back up, and then across all the platforms, the amount of people who actually registered for the platform actually converted and created their first task, which is what they wanted to do.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Can you hear me without microphone?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So thank you for the presentation. And
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about priorities. Like you mentioned, is it good or bad to have it? I mean, anyway, we will shift important stuff. I mean, but
Yeah.
is it important really to take the time to prioritize it,
Actually, yeah. So again, it's not to say anything is bad. It's that you want to lean in a direction. Sometimes you may need mercenaries to staff your team. We call those people, for lack of a better term, people who augment your engineering staff, probably, right? And that's totally fine, because sometimes you may need that. All right. Now, to your question, is it bad? No. I have a roadmap. I prioritize my roadmap, but I start with opportunities. And then what I do, actually, if you look up DN Simple, they have a blog, and they actually have a really, really good method on how to prioritize. And it's basically a weighted average of all the things that they want to affect. I have such a formula in my team, and the two things that I've added is one for OKRs. If something is an OKR, it gets weighted heavily, and the other, I think, is like sales opportunity or something like that. And then I talk to the sales team, and I say, all right, if we ship said blah, how much could we affect the uplift in our MRR, and who are the people that need this sort of thing, so that I can weight that, and then against all of the other potential categories, then I really rank order, sort by number, and then boom, whatever gets surfaced at the top is what we're going to probably do next. And then everyone can agree to that, because not only did it take into account like future, innovation, risk, opportunity, the goals that we want to achieve, it took account every different department and lens on it. Nobody can contest it. Like, I worked with you on it, everyone's cool with it, let's go. And it helps really solidify a team. So prioritization, totally fine. Start with opportunities and then work your way, I would suggest. Anyone else?
One more.
DN Simple. I can share that with Arena. It's really good. I think it's a good post.
Yeah. One more? Anybody? No? Cool. Thank you so much for the talk.
Hey. turn off for me.